Our next question is directed to Paula Hughes first, and will be very familiar to all three of you. How would you utilize the money the city will receive from the light lease settlement and interest?
I've been pretty clear about this. I think we need to pay down the debt. City has amassed $405 million in long-term debt. I mentioned the seeded fund in my last response. That seeded fund, that $23 million that comes in a year, $11 million of that goes right back out the door to debt service. If we focused on paying off those debts alone, we'd have an extra $11 million a year to use for projects. Pay down the debt. Light lease is going to come in two chunks. $43 million this summer, whenever the Indiana Regulatory Commission approves the deal. 38 from the past 40 years, $5 million for the new deal. And the rest is going to come in at $145,000 a month, incrementally over time. The best financial legacy, or best legacy period, we can leave to our community is financial stability.
Well, I too have been clear on this issue, and I have a little different perspective. I think, from my point of view, when you have liquidity, you do not take your liquidity to pay down debt in this environment. It's very important in businesses that know this. If you pay down debt, you're going to lose your flexibility. Right now, it's more difficult to get debt, and so. Secondly, and what I've stated about the use of the light lease money is it should be invested by lending. So what I know from my private equity experience is that when you want to do $100 million worth of projects and the banks will give you $70 million, you're not going to get a private equity group to come in and put $30 million into those projects. But if we were to lend money at $15 million, we could perhaps make about 5 to 7%. We would then stimulate $15 million of private equity and have $100 million in new projects that go up in the city. And that gives us four things: better quality of life. It gives us a tax base now of $100 million because these are all private projects. It gives us employment in a down economy. And then in addition to that, it allows us to have the quality of life that will attract and retain talent in Fort Wayne. So I think that's make a return on our investment. That's the fourth thing. And so I think that's an appropriate use of the light lease money.
Well, clearly I think paying down the debt and talking about the debt that we carry now is a red herring. A lot of our debt, we have prepayment penalties, so we will incur costs to pay off these bonds early. Many of our bonds will be rolling off our tax rolls by 2016. So to be able to say you're paying down a fourth of our debt by the end of your term, when 30% of our debt will be gone, will actually mean you're incurring more debt. So I think where we are now, it's sustainable. It's going to be tight. It's going to be really tight in 2012 and 2013. I've said that since I came on council, and Pat Rowland made our first presentation to us in terms of what we were projecting going forward. And we know that our seeded dollars will be tight. But I'll give you an example of debt that I think was worthwhile. When we bought Renaissance Square, Citizen Square, the dollars we spent for that were coming out of the property taxes. We were paying $1.2 million a year in rent to the county. We're paying that much money now in debt to pay for that bond, and after 20 years, we will own that building. That's the same amount of money coming out of the bottom line. You can call that debt now, but those dollars were still being spent, and were going to be spent. And if you look at how the county recently looked at what they were doing with the city-county voting, is they were going to shortchange us when we needed to combine public safety and not get us the service we need. So I'm okay with that. What I think we need to do with the light lease fund going forward is use it to borrow against ourselves in terms of funding the infrastructure projects and long-term economic development projects that are sustainable that we need.